Please welcome to the stage MORPC Director William Murdoch.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You can go ahead and keep eating your lunch. I hope that you're enjoying things. Again, I'm William Murdoch. I'm the Executive Director of the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Our friends just call us MORPC. Well, we're really excited for the day so far. We've had great sessions. I've been able to poke my head into a number of them. Really great questions, great dialogue, good networking. And Dana Borland, we thought, was just a fantastic keynote. I hope you're getting as much inspiration out of today's summit as I do. And one thing that might surprise you if you've come to a number of these, this is our 15th year having an environmental summit. Every year, even the pandemic year when we did it fully virtually, we've had hundreds of community leaders and professionals just like you coming together to share best practices and do more. And I think this makes Central Ohio one of the best places to be if you want to work on sustainability in the country. And now we're all facing so much urgency in this work. With the urgency of climate and the pressures of growth, I know that if you're like me, you feel that pressure that we have so much more to do. And that's why I'm so grateful that we have an incredibly dedicated team of sustainability professionals and more at MORPC working with me and supporting me, and I think they're leading with their work in Central Ohio. So thank you to my team for the great work that they do. If you've been following it, you know that our regional sustainability agenda highlights all of our efforts for Central Ohio. It lays out the goals ahead. You can actually follow those goals too if you get on our sustainability dashboard to track our progress. And today's summit, that's our signature event where we want to make sure best practices and sharing and collaboration happen too. I also hope that today's event strengthens your resolve to connect with each other, to act on what you learn, and I think especially to get everybody to the table, especially those who are missing from the sustainability discussion. You know, at MORPC, we strongly believe that the region needs to pull together to tackle big challenges, and sustainability is certainly a big challenge. And it's really important to pull together because this is such an unpredictable, challenging time. We're in a pandemic, one that's touched every part of our lives and our work, and it's also exposed the inequities and racial disparities and so much more in our community. When you combine this with the protests and the actions we've seen in the last year in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, well, we're at an inflection point. And we want to emphasize that. And like many of you, we've taken a really hard look at our own efforts. We want to ensure that our work in sustainability removes barriers and improves access in historically marginalized and underserved communities. Our members, our local governments, they're taking action too. And if you haven't seen it, many Central Ohio communities have declared racism as a public health crisis in the last year. It's also an environmental crisis. And that's why we've worked so hard to make sure we're being more inclusive and more intentional than ever in our work about planning for our increasingly diverse region. I will admit we have a lot more work to do, a lot more work, but we've woven this value into every aspect of our work, especially in that regional sustainability agenda. And MORPC's team is taking equity as a priority as we're looking at environmental issues big to small. And on a personal note, if you know anybody on our team, you'll know what I mean when I say this. I continue to learn from them, and I'm inspired by their work, and I hope that you are too. So let me share some examples of that work, and let's start with Central Ohio's most often talked about urgent issue, and that's housing. So housing is a sustainability issue. We heard it from Dana this morning. It's also an economic issue, an environmental challenge. It's an equity issue, and it became more urgent with the pandemic. And this is where MORPC's regional housing strategy comes in. This is a first for our region. This proactive, coordinated effort brought so many together, Franklin County, Columbus, and many, many others who researched the issues and developed over 100 actions and solutions. It also brought an equity lens to this issue in a way we hadn't done before as a region. And we even examined what applies differently in different communities, whether urban, rural, suburban. We looked at submarkets to make sure we could tackle those unique challenges. And we know that investments in housing investments in stabilizing housing, those are calls to action in the regional housing strategy. And I mention this because you know that our crew at MORPC is so invested in helping the most vulnerable with just that. And you met Robert Williams earlier today. If Robert was up here, he would tell you that weatherization and repair are one of the biggest, most cost-effective environmental actions we can take. There's so much impact it can have, both from climate to personal safety, and there's a lot more that we could do in our community. All of this is on the backdrop of growth. Central Ohio is growing. We are growing. We've added 250,000 people in just the last decade. Central Ohio is on target still to be a region of 3 million people. And I think what this growth means is how we think about housing and sustainability needs to change. To do it right, our region needs to invest in more and better options in housing, and we need to connect it with more and better options in transportation and to move around. We've got the research that backs that, and if you didn't make it to the session earlier, we call it Link Us. So if you haven't heard about Link Us, it brings MORPC and CODA and Columbus and Franklin County and many others together to build on all those things you've heard us talk about in the past, those plans, Insight 2050 or CODA's Next Gen. But here's the kicker, and I say this as the leader of your Regional Planning Commission. Link Us isn't a plan. Link Us is about implementing real solutions, and I know that we're hungry for it in this region. We think Link Us is going to do just that. It's going to help the whole region grow bigger, or grow better as we grow bigger. It includes advanced rapid transit, better ways to move around. It creates more housing options and easier access to jobs. And again, our research confirms that this approach, the Link Us approach, is a sustainable one. It can help air quality, energy efficiency, and more. It improves safety. It also has equity at its core. And these investments that we're making with Link Us will help the whole region and lift the whole region up. Link Us is going to connect the region with these more sustainable options, but I want you to know too, let's expand the geography from Columbus on out. And I want you to imagine new connections from Columbus to Cleveland, Chicago, Dayton, Pittsburgh. That could be really transformative. And if you're wondering, we're working on that too, and it's much more sustainable to have these connections. So we are planning to connect to these other regions with passenger rail. MORPC and partners are currently working with Amtrak to help Central Ohio connect to the nation's passenger network again. Now, I know if you've been here a while, you might be skeptical. But if you are skeptical, I'm telling you, you shouldn't be, because Columbus is the biggest potential new market for passenger rail in the country. There's a strong, yes, it is. This means we have a strong business case. We have fewer options and connections. That sets us back with workforce. It sets us back with equity. It sets us back with sustainability. It's pretty clear we need more options. And why I'm so excited is not only have we done the planning and continue to do the work that we need to advance this, but we have a really great window of opportunity to get this investment moving. If you haven't followed it, there's major potential funding in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and MORPC and its partners in Central Ohio, we are ready to take advantage of that opportunity, and if you want to get involved and help, know that this is coming at us really soon. We're moving forward on trails, too, and more than ever, you know the importance of trails in providing safe and healthy recreation, and that's where what we call Central Ohio GREENWAYS comes in. If you don't know it, we have a trail network that is incredible. 230 miles across the region, 12 million miles of travel happen on this network every year. And we're not thinking small. We have a vision for 500 more miles of trails. But one thing that's really important when we think about that is how we get started on next steps for those 500 miles is really important. That's why we've just completed what we call a trail prioritization study, and we've identified the investments that are going to have the greatest potential impact on those things that we really care about: quality of life, equity, environmental protection, development, health. If we start there with our trail investments, it will strengthen the whole network and the whole region. You know, as planners, sometimes it's easy just to focus on connecting those lines on the map and to the full table of planning students to my left. That is an important part of it, but it's really important to think about how trails impact the community. We also think that it's good to think about how trails can be fun. And so our team has done some really cool things. Let me tell you, we've partnered with Experience Columbus on a trails passport to encourage people to check out our system. We've also kicked off a fun initiative, and you might have caught the session on this, called Trail Towns, which help smaller communities build on trail tourism and active transportation. And we went further with Rapid 5, and I know you saw the video this morning. We're really proud of the effort and appreciative of the recognition. But Rapid 5 asked a really important question. What if we built our GREENWAYS system to create the largest interconnected park in the country? And if we went further and made it improve water quality and conservation and created opportunities for sensitive development and small businesses, that's different and that's exciting, and that's what the partnership with the Urban Land Institute, Columbus, and so many others delivered on with a vision through this design competition earlier this year. It was compelling, it honored equity and history and culture and nature and connectivity. And I'm gonna stop there because you're gonna hear a lot more about it from Dr. Kirsten Carr later in the program. We're so proud of this effort. When we talk about greenways, we can't forget about water because it's at the heart of it. And our team at MORPC is very focused on water quality because it's such an important factor in everything from a healthy ecosystem to human health. Preserving and improving it is a top priority. And that's why MORPC is working with communities across 10 counties in Central Ohio to create water quality management plans. And we're also working on major strategies like sustaining Sayada. These plans plot and direct actions to reduce pollution, build resilience, preserve clean water, and it's a pretty valuable resource for our region. You can't mention water without mentioning air, and this is also a big priority for us because poor air quality and rising temperatures combine to seriously impact health. I know Dana mentioned that earlier. This is our work for the region, and what we are seeing are big discrepancies in air quality throughout the region. We want to understand this better so that we can take action, and I'm really excited because we're placing new technology monitors across the region to determine what neighborhoods might be impacted more when it comes to air quality and higher air pollution levels. Better information means bigger impact on those who need it most. We're also working on everything from reducing emissions to energy. That's where transit and electric vehicles and renewables come in, and MORPC and Franklin County and others are now SolSmart certified, say that 2 times, to work on solar and to help our region make that transition. And there is so much more that I could talk about. But if you step back a little bit, you're gonna see a thread that's common to all the work that's happening in these efforts, and that's leadership by local governments. Our communities in Central Ohio are so focused on sustainability, and we see that clearly in our work. We have something called Sustainable 2050. So if you're skeptical, you shouldn't be, because we have 35 local governments, townships, cities, counties, villages, who are working together to measure their progress on sustainability, to share best practices, and to push each other harder. In fact, 19 of those communities have gone through a rigorous certification process so that they can demonstrate their achievements, benchmark against their peers, and challenge themselves to do more. It is really, really impressive. And for those communities here who are part of that, you know that's hard work, it's meaningful work, and we appreciate you. You know I could talk a lot more about sustainability, but this is just some of that work. And let me close by just saying this. We need to raise our expectations about our future in Central Ohio. We should expect to grow in a way that's more sustainable. We should expect more options in transit and housing and environment. And our team at MORPC, our whole goal is to help you do that and to work with you and to learn from you and to share those examples. And I just appreciate you all being here today and rallying around our work. And with that, I will just say thank you for being here today. But we're not done. We're about to get to the most fun part of the summit, and this is a tradition, our Pecha Kucha speakers. If you haven't seen this before, compelling stories, lots of fun, and no slowing down. When you see the individuals come up here, know that they get 20 slides that are only up for 20 seconds apiece, and they move whether they're ready or not. And we're really excited because they have some really great stories to share. And to get us started, I'm going to welcome Brandy Whetstone, who's MORPC's Sustainability Officer, up to the stage. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Brandy Whetstone, the Sustainability Officer with MORPC. And now what you've all been waiting for, please welcome Ty Marsh, public servant, leader, and lover of Columbus.
Good afternoon. MORPC estimates that over the coming decades, our population in the region will grow by over 1 million people. Franklin County, the area served by SWACO's population growth will go over 450,000. While there's appropriate focus on the gross impact on housing, transportation, and infrastructure, we must also need to realize the impact on the waste stream. SWACO estimates that 600,000 additional tons of waste per year will be generated in Franklin County alone. How will we manage that increase of waste so that our community can continue to grow, to prosper, and also to ensure environmental sustainability? That's our challenge and opportunity. Let's start with the basics. Do we have enough landfill space to accommodate this increase? The short answer is yes. Our landfill has 43 years of capacity remaining, far better than many other regions that must now focus on expanding their landfills rather than increasing their recycling. But simply having landfill capacity is not enough. We must become more sustainable by recycling more and doing so in a way that enhances the environment and improves the economy. We can and we should have both. There's an easy place to start. Did you know that 76% of all the waste materials going into the landfill could be recycled? That's over 800,000 tons of recycled material being thrown away. The positive consequences of diverting this material from the landfill and recycling them into new products are enormous. What would be the impact on the environment if those materials were recycled? Simply stated, it would have a direct impact on reducing carbon emissions and slowing climate change, because landfills are major emitters of methane gas, a major source of carbon emissions. The more you recycle, the more material is landfilled, and the less methane gas is produced. If you want to reduce carbon emissions, recycle more. What would be the impact on our economy if the materials were recycled? There are nearly 400 companies in Central Ohio that are in the recycling business that employ 5,000 employees and have a direct impact of $2 million. It's a major industry in Central Ohio. So when you recycle, you're doing more than just helping the environment, you're supporting local jobs. Here are some examples of SWACO's successful sustainability projects that enhance the environment and grow the economy. I want to start with our landfill gas to energy project. I just talked about methane gas being produced at landfills. SWACO is not an exception to that, but what is exceptional is we capture and recycle that gas. It's piped and sold to local companies for use as a renewable energy source. As a result, our air is cleaner because we don't emit the gas. Local companies have a renewable energy source, and SWACO generates revenue from the gas sale, which offsets your cost of waste disposal. And by the way, this program helps us reach our goal of a reduction of 64% of carbon emissions by the year 2032. Another example is a solar park on a closed landfill along I-71 south of downtown where the Phoenix Golf Course used to be. When completed, it will produce 50 megawatts of renewable energy, enough electricity for 5,000 homes. And when completed, will be the largest solar project of its kind on a closed landfill in the United States. And we just announced the green energy. Thanks, but you're going to throw up my whole schedule here, so sorry about that. We just announced the Green Energy Park on our 350-acre site that will remanufacture recycled materials and convert them into new products. The park could generate over 2,000 jobs, $350 million in investment, and more than $3 million in revenue. Excellent examples of environmental and economic growth are occurring in our communities through sustainable actions. Hilliard-based Advanced Drainage Systems is the second largest recycler of plastics in the United States. Dublin-based Wendy's will sustainability source all customer-facing packaging by the year 2026. And Whitehall is implementing a new volume-based waste collection system that creates an incentive to recycle more. My point is this: demand for recycling is increasing and sustainability practices are growing in households, schools, and businesses and communities, and doing so in exciting ways that benefit our environment and our economy. Need further confirmation? When Amazon selected Columbus as one of the finalists for its headquarters, they asked about sustainability and recycling because it's a workforce attraction issue. These are now factors in business relocation and investment decisions. Yet despite the tremendous advances we've made in sustainability and recycling, we still have a long way to go. Site Selection Magazine, the publication for economic development professionals, recently released its rankings of top national regions for sustainability. Toledo was 1, Cincinnati was 3, Indianapolis 8. Surprisingly and shockingly, Columbus didn't make the national list of top metro regions for sustainability. In fact, it didn't even make a top rating in the Midwest. That's just completely and totally unacceptable, yet it's completely and totally changeable. So how do we improve and be a top region for sustainability and recycling? It takes vision and leadership. Vision that sees the opportunity and acts on it, and leadership that is coordinated, collaborative, inclusive, transparent, and committed. And that's my challenge to you, not just to be a part of the solution, but to help drive it, to provide and advance that vision and leadership. Because moving forward together, and only together, can we deservedly become the sustainable region that everybody in this room wants us to be. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brooke White, and I am MORPC's Sustainability Program Manager. And I would like to ask you to please help me welcome Carolyn Thurman to the stage. She's a Halloween lover, a beginner gardener, and an okay listener. Please welcome her to the stage. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I just want to take a second and introduce myself. I'm a millennial, and like a lot of other millennials, when I went to college, I was introduced to a whole new way of getting around. In my case, I went to college in Cleveland. I went to Case Western Reserve University, where I, for the first time in my life, was able to use rail. And that changed everything. It changed the way I interacted with the world around me. Suddenly I could walk and get groceries. I was walking to class. I was walking to work. I was walking for entertainment. I didn't need a car. And for someone who grew up in Central Ohio, it was amazing to me that suddenly these other modes of transportation became easier to use than a car. And I want to take a second and talk about our individual carbon footprint. I think we all know that when it comes to climate change, there's obviously a corporate responsibility to do better, but there's also things that we can do ourselves, our individuals, to lessen the burden that we put on the environment. And that is called your carbon footprint. So I want to take a look at this graphic that I pulled straight from the US EPA. And when they're recommending what you can do to reduce your individual carbon footprint, they kind of talk about these categories. So your home energy usage, the waste you produce, and your transportation. And I'm not going to talk about the waste and home energy because I think other folks are going to be talking about today, but I want to talk about transportation. So I entered in my info into the carbon footprint calculator, and I was excited to see that I was below the US average. I'm doing better than a lot of other households. But I want to draw attention to that first line and that second line on there. That second line on there are the recommendations that I could do to be better. There's no recommendation. And I want to talk about why that is. So I recently moved, but I want to talk about my old neighborhood for a while here. It had no sidewalks. So even though I lived in an urban area that I was near amenities, I couldn't actually access them. Without sidewalks, I couldn't actually get to where I needed to go. And in my household, we've got 2 kids, and that became a huge factor. So even though, I'm a planner, so I did the right things where I wanted to have neighborhood amenities, I chose a daycare a half mile away from where I lived. Couldn't actually get my kids there, though, because I didn't have sidewalks. And I want to talk about another item that actually became a factor. A lot of times we talk about focusing that we have bus service. In my neighborhood's case, we did have bus service, and this isn't what my bus stop looked like. This one's very nice. However, I couldn't get to the bus stop. I didn't have sidewalks to get to the bus stop in the first place to take advantage of the fact that I lived off a high-frequency route. And all of that played a part into our decision to move. And here I'm thinking that, we're an upper middle class household, and I'm a planner. I'm going to easily find a walkable neighborhood to raise my family in. I wasn't the only person thinking that. So when I got out there, what I saw was that these houses, they're going into contract in an hour. Any house in a walkable community near amenities, that was also what other millennials were looking for. And there weren't very many of them. So there wasn't a lot of access to those houses. And I want to talk about the impact that has on how you engage in your community. I think we all experienced over the last year this increased love of recreation. When we weren't allowed to go interact with our community inside public spaces, we went outside. We walked around, we saw our neighbors. But that activity looked different for people in different neighborhoods. Those of us that didn't have sidewalks were more confined. We weren't able to get out and socialize in those safe ways that other people were able to do. And so we've moved into a new house, and this is not a picture of the neighborhood I've moved into, but it's close enough. And now we finally have those sidewalks. We can talk to our neighbors, we can do some recreational walking, but we don't have anywhere to walk to. So, yes, in order to be walkable, it's not just sidewalks. You also have to have somewhere to go. And so I think back to that time in college where I know it's possible. I know it's possible to be able to walk to meet friends, to walk to work, to walk for entertainment, to reduce your reliance on car dependency because you're able to walk and do the things that you want to do. And that's not just important for the adults in our community, it's also important for the kids. I've moved into a school district where all kids don't have safe routes to school. And I know I'm not going to get into a discussion about neighborhood schools or anything like that, but regardless if you have a neighborhood school or you're walking to a bus stop, all children in our community deserve the ability to walk safely. And so I want to talk about this image because a lot of times when we talk about walkable communities, we look at New York City or San Francisco. This is Cleveland. And this isn't the Cleveland that was there when I was a student in Cleveland. This is investments that Cleveland has made to the area just outside their downtown over the last 10 years or so to create that walkable community. And this is Westerville. This is a suburb here in Central Ohio that's taken great strides over the last few years to ensure that we have those connections through sidewalks, through bike trails, through services like Coda Plus, so that the residents in our community have access to these sorts of amenities and don't have to be car dependent. However, that access doesn't exist for everyone. As I mentioned, in my household, we had a lot of privileges that didn't even get us to find this type of community. Not everyone has those privileges. Not everyone has access to the types of neighborhoods that I'm describing. Not everyone has access to reduce their car dependency. And one key part of that I want to talk about is the types of housing units that are available. When we were looking, it was overwhelmingly single-family houses that were in these neighborhoods. There weren't houses for other types of households who need that. And that includes smaller units for folks that want to downsize or people who are just starting out on their own. And it also includes accessible units for folks that need more accessibility inside their units themselves. And I want to end on this picture too, because with who we have in this audience, there's a lot of us who represent different organizations. We represent cities and villages and counties. And I want to really make sure that we're taking that responsibility on to ensure that everyone has access to these types of communities these types of neighborhoods in our communities. And I want to say that again, because when I say everyone, I mean everyone. It's up to us to ensure that we develop our built environment in a way that allows people to choose ways that they can reduce their carbon footprint, in this example, but to choose in general how to get into these accessible, walkable communities and be more sustainable. Now, the same way that we have put the effort to allow for recycling and composting and energy efficiency, we need to put that into alternative transportation as we're developing our communities. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Edwina Tay, Associate Planner.
Good afternoon. My name is Edwina Tay. I'm an associate planner here at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, responsible for water planning and water management. Please help me welcome to the stage Jennifer Fish, resourceful, creative, driven.
We are so fortunate here in Central Ohio to have many miles of beautiful streams to enjoy. Protecting these streams and improving water quality is all about using the land wisely to soak in the rain. Anyone here play SimCity when they were a kid? My communities, when I was a kid, I would spend hours playing SimCity. And I would always be planting trees, placing parks everywhere, and my communities weren't always sustainable because I'd forget the power plant or other infrastructure. But I did enjoy and envision living in a very green city. It's all about the hydraulic cycle. Remember in middle school when the rain would fall on the land, it infiltrates into the groundwater, evaporates into the air, it's taken up by plants and trees, or whatever's left off runs off into the rivers and streams. Now take that land, place it with parking lots, rooftops, compacted soil, take out the trees, create ditches that run the water more quickly off into the streams, fill in the floodplain. We now increase our stormwater runoff from 10 to 55%. And the water, as it goes across the land, runs across the land, carries the pollution and the litter directly to our streams and rivers without any filtration, without any treatment. This water increased runoff also increases flooding and increases severe erosion in the streams. This can be a nuisance and sometimes a direct threat to property. In Central Ohio, we all know population is going to grow. But that population is going to be more roads, more compacted soil, more parking lots, more rooftops. Also, we know with climate change, we're already seeing more extreme weather events, more flooding where we have never seen flooding before. And we'd like to think that our policies and our regulations are going to help mitigate this. But remember, when we develop those policies and regulations, it is based on the need, the political will, and past experience. We haven't experienced what we're going to be experiencing in the future. But the trends are clear. And with everything I know, if we do not do a better job at using the land to soak it in the rain, the future does not look good. The good news, however, is that we have so many opportunities to do this, and we need to do it everywhere, and we need to do it quickly. You can start by planting native plants at home. Native plants have deep root structures that help break up the Ohio clay soil and infiltrate more rainwater. They're also the best possible food for birds, butterflies, and bees. The most famous example is the monarch butterfly that depends on the milkweed plant for its survival. Did you know right now, local stormwater conservation districts are accepting the brown, dried milkweed pods? You can drop them off at our office, and then we provide them to the Ohio Department of Transportation so that they can plant them across roads throughout Ohio. If you want to take native plants up a notch, plant a rain garden and redirect your roof runoff to that rain garden. This does take planning, digging, soil amendments, and costs. The good news is we can help you here at Franklin Soil and Water, and we also have some limited cost share dollars available. The best native plants are trees. According to iTree, the City of Columbus tree canopy can take up to 2 billion gallons of water in a year. Trees also take up carbon dioxide, give us oxygen, provide shade and shelter, and so much more. Let's face it, trees are the absolute best, and we should be planting them everywhere. Even lawns can do a better job at soaking in the rainwater. A healthy lawn on top of 4 to 6 inches of topsoil can soak up twice as much rainwater as a lawn on subsoil. These healthy lawns also require less fertilizer, pesticides, and herbicides. If we can talk developers or home builders, if you're building a home, to replacing that topsoil to a 4 to 6 inches before establishing that lawn, you will have a healthier lawn that takes in more rainwater. If you want to get fancy, go ahead and install a rain barrel or a cistern to take up and store and reuse the water. A typical rain barrel takes up 50 gallons of rainwater. So if every roof in Central Ohio had a rain barrel, we could take up at least 10 million gallons of water during a storm event. Not to mention, you can also use your roof as a green roof or a blue roof to store, evaporate, and transpirate the water and keep it from running off your roof. If you're upgrading your driveway or your parking lot, consider pervious pavers, pervious concrete, or pervious asphalt. They can take up 3 to 8 gallons of water per minute per square foot. And sometimes you'll see in parking lots larger rain gardens called bioswales, and they too, when well designed, do an excellent job at soaking up the rain. And don't forget what Mother Nature provided us with wetlands and floodplains. If we can talk to landowners and developers before they put their plans on paper, we can find low-cost ways for them to develop the land and reduce their impacts on these natural rainwater sponges. So the goal here is to infiltrate water everywhere, expect green development above the state minimum standards, and restore and protect wetlands and floodplains. Coincidentally, next week is Stormwater Awareness Week. So this is the perfect time to plant a tree, plant a rain garden, install a rain barrel. Think about healthy lawns, learn about your community stormwater program, and if you need assistance, call your local soil and water conservation district, and we will be very happy to help.
Please welcome to the stage Rwanda Hampton, Diversity, Inclusion, Engagement Officer.
Good afternoon. My name is Rolanda Hampton, and I'm MORPC's Diversity, Inclusion, and Engagement Officer. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you the Compost Clubhouse Kids. Please help me welcome to the stage Cece Job, Green Teen, Composting Queen, and Earth Friends. Next, we have Emerson White, tennis enthusiast, optimistic and passionate composter. Manning Norris, avid computer hobbyist, loving cat owner, and incessant thinker. Lastly, Stella Jolly, avid reader, composter, and chicken whisperer. Thank you.
Okay, so we humans here, we have a problem, and that is waste, literally. So our waste is piling up in these landfills, And it's just building on top of itself day in, day out. And we're the only organisms on Earth that create waste. Nothing else does it, from the smallest organisms living under rocks to the biggest fish. Nothing creates it but humans. So more than half of the material in our landfills in the United States is compostable. So that's our food scraps, paper products, vegetation, and some of it is still entirely edible. And unfortunately, in the landfills, it's living in an anaerobic environment, meaning there's no air for the food to keep breaking down. Now, in the United States, we have 60 billion pounds of food waste produced each year. And that's a very large number that I can't comprehend. So that's about 2 million school buses worth of food waste produced. So the next time you are stuck in traffic or dropping your kid off at school, annoyed by the buses, think of it full of food waste. Children like myself have visited the local landfills. We've seen the trash pile up in our cafeterias. We've seen the waste created at large events. And we know that it doesn't have to be this way. We've seen it all firsthand, like many people here have, but there's a change that's coming, and it starts with us. So we are asking you all here today to join us in helping to try save the world. We're trying to do it with one bucket at a time, and that's only able to happen through assistance from you guys. So.
Earth is alive with trillions of microorganisms that decompose all matter into nutrient-rich, life-giving soil. Everything that lives gets repurposed and contributes to the growth of new life. That's where Compost Clubhouse comes in. We empower kids and their communities to divert food scraps and other biodegradable waste from our landfills and send it to the compost pile where it belongs. We connect with others in our community to learn about the issues, discover solutions, and spread the seeds of composting far and wide. We provide everything people need to begin composting, and we offer weekly pickup services to make the process simple. We partner with schools, offering worm composters and compost buckets for lower schools and large containers for upper school lunchrooms. We provide resources, education, and activities to make composting educational, easy, and fun.
When we think about the problem of waste, the solution is clear, well, more of a deep brown. September 1st, 2021 marked 2 years since Compost Clubhouse picked up our first bucket of compost. Thanks to the wonderful support of our subscribers and everyone in the community we serve, today we support 250 households, 14 schools, and have diverted over 50 tons from Central Ohio landfills. That's 7 African elephants or 4 school buses worth. The Compost Clubhouse youth-led team travels to local events with our fleet of 48-gallon reciprocals to connect with community members, teach about the importance of and the magic of composting to divert food waste. We love visiting our local schools to get younger students excited about the amazing world of composting, making sure they're ready to be the next compost leaders. When we head to college, not only will we be able to share what we've built in our own community, we'll know we've left our clubs in good hands. Imagine how many gardens, delicious meals, and young forests have been made possible in just under a year. That's our mission at Compost Clubhouse. Small change, big impact.
As we've shown today, composting is a simple way to make a huge impact. And we started Compost Clubhouse to make it even easier. Whether or not you have your own vegetable garden, whether you live in a house or an apartment, contact us to get started composting in your backyard, to bring your organic scraps to a local drop-off station, or to receive curbside pickup. If your school or your child's school doesn't compost yet, reach out to us and we'll work together to create an action network to change that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how old or young you may be. We're just here to help you turn waste into brand new life. Join our club. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this was awesome. These are always my favorite presentation at the summit, and you all did a fantastic job. Can we please give all our presenters another round of applause? All right, before we end this plenary and head to the next set of breakout session, I would like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit more about Rapid 5. William talked about this already briefly during his opening remarks during lunch here. If you attended this summit this morning, you also learned that the Rapid 5 initiative got our collaborative reward, and it's very well deserved. So for those of you who haven't heard much about Rapid 5 yet, let me just tell you, you are missing out, and we will make sure that you know all about it after you leave today. Earlier this year, with the financial support from many communities, many of you are in the room today, thank you, and also support from our private firms and organizations here in Franklin County, MORPC partnered with the Urban Land Institute of Columbus and hired the Neighborhood Design Center and 5 very talented local design firms to come up with new visions for our 5 major river corridors. We basically asked them to think about how could these 5 river corridors in Franklin County be expanded into larger green spaces and better connected and activated to the community at large. And so we're talking about ideas like a regional park district around the Big Darby, Griggs Dam bypass with whitewater opportunities on the Scioto, which I personally can't wait to be on myself, a modern confluence center where the Scioto and Olentangy meet, a mixed-use, mixed-income community for Hanford Village and the Alum Creek area, and then also a kayaking launch at Friendship Park in Gehenna along the Big Walnuts, and so much more. All of the designs and ideas are thoughtful, and they honor the stream's history, ecological life, and community around it. And most importantly, they address equity and access. As one of the most economically and racially segregated regions, we know we need to do more, and we need to make sure that this system is a reflection of who we are and who we want to be as a region. We need to raise our expectations across the board, as William already said, and I think we're starting to do this with Rapid 5, but we're also doing this with other regional initiatives such as LINCA, Central Ohio Greenways, or the Regional Housing Strategy. So I really want to encourage you to get involved. Specifically to Rapid 5, there's a website called rapid5.org. You can check out all these visions in much more detail. But we also were able to partner with Experience Columbus this year for an outdoor trail pass to actually experience all the amazing amenities we already have today. You can just download it on your phone and have even the chance to win some prizes. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll send you out to go learn more, engage more, and network more. The next set of breakout sessions begin at 2:15, and then they are followed by some great conversations at 3:30. In the meantime, go check out the exhibitor spaces, maybe pick up a bucket at Compost Clubhouse. My family is already doing it. My daughter and her friends are ambassadors for the city of Reynoldsburg, and also just network with your peers. I know this is a rare opportunity within the last 2 years that we have to actually be in person and hang out and catch up, so definitely take advantage of it. And thank you again for coming, and we hope you enjoyed it.